What's up guys, it's Pliskin here, and welcome to one of the legendary closets that I tend to record in because the world likes to get comically loud whenever I record, and right now in the house I got a lot of family members, which is great. I like having people around, but yeah, it means I can't use certain spaces that I'd otherwise use to do recording, so this is going to be another closet video, except this time you get to see the closet. So our first question comes from Comic Sans, who's asking, how do I feel about stop killing games, like the hashtag? I've never heard of it up until this point, but I was very happy when I did a little bit of research and learned that it's actually about what I bring up with like the whole Ubisoft removing the Crew from people's consoles. The Crew was a racing game that a lot of people bought and owned, and Ubisoft just kind of took that. I'm glad there's a petition about this. I've gotten a lot of commenters that like talk about, oh no, it's actually good that corporations can decide when you can or cannot play a game, and it's just like, no. So I'm very happy to hear that there's actually people that, you know, have a little bit more of a spine and stand up to this kind of stuff. I'm happy there's an actual petition out there. I urge more people to go sign it, become a part of this, and yeah, stop killing games is something I definitely support. Okay, our next question comes from Comic Sam's the Great. I don't know if this is the same guy on two accounts or if this is just another guy and it's a weird coincidence, but yeah. He asked two questions. One, how do I feel about Konami's return to gaming? And what are my thoughts on Halo Dig Site? So in regards to Konami's return to gaming, I want to use this as another opportunity to clarify. One of my most popular videos is that video where I am bashing Hideo Kojima and his whole cult of influence. Just because I don't like him doesn't mean I'm super supportive of Konami. I don't like Konami. I don't trust Konami. They're bringing back the Metal Gear series, which is cool. I like that they're making more games, but I'm not even cautiously optimistic. I am just cautious. I'm gonna wait till the Snake Eater remake comes out. I'm gonna do my research on it. Cool, I'll get the Metal Gear collections, especially if they keep coming to Switch. But then even when it came to Switch, one of my only problems with the collection wasn't the issues with the with it being graphically inferior and running worse. I could care less about that. My issue was that on the Switch version, the games were not actually on the cartridge, and I'm sure you know by now, I really like having physical things I can own. So yeah, Konami's return to gaming, it's another game development company, and the majority of the time game development companies are pretty shitty to their workers and to their customers. So I'm happy we're getting more Metal Gear games. Hopefully we start getting some more stuff with Silent Hill sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's still Konami, so. And then in regards to Halo Dig Site, I have actually been messing around with Dig Site, and one of the few games I actually own on PC now is Halo 1. Big surprise. You should play Halo 1. I really recommend it. It's a good game. You should play it. So yeah, I like Dig Site. I've been messing around with a lot of mods. It's pretty cool, and I'll make a video in the future talking more about my thoughts on PC and how they've changed after this last console generation. Okay, now we finally have a question that was following the whole prompt about, like, you know, this is supposed to be a Q&A about different video game characters and my thoughts on them. Not that I mind other random questions. I mean, the prompts are just loosely there for you guys to, you know, have some kind of direction, but if you have random questions, throw that shit at me. But yeah, Leon Wick is asking, do I think Jill Valentine or Leon S. Kennedy is cooler? And that is the easiest fucking question I have ever received. Jill Valentine. This is the nemesis breaker. This is the, you know, goes up against Chris and Sheva, and like, you know, if you can go toe-to-toe with Chris Redfield, that's pretty fucking cool. I like Jill as a character. I like that her whole backstory has her as like the underdog of stars. She balances out the whole coolness factor with a certain human factor there. Now, I like what they've done with Leon in the remakes with the whole survivor guilt and Raccoon City, really pushing him to want to help people, more so because he feels bad about what went down in 1998. But if we're talking about Leon in the original games, especially once you get to RE6, he's a fucking cocksucker. He's like incredibly misogynistic, he's like generic action hero. So just as a whole, while I really like remake Leon, Jill Valentine hasn't really had an outing where I dislike her. I like her in the RE3 remake, I like her in Revelations, I like her in the classic games. She is just that, proponent force for good that's capable, and that's really cool. Now we got an interesting question from Pameticon. If MGS continues, does it need a new main character? What kind of new main character would I envision? And what are my thoughts on Ryden's rising character arc? So in regards to needing a new character, I don't think the Metal Gear series needs someone new. It's very clear at this point here that they're just trying to do like a retread of the Metal Gear series. They're playing it incredibly safe. I would have taken a much more radical approach where I hard reboot the entire Metal Gear series, but I would have used Snake. Solid Skane is pretty fucking cool. And there's so many different depictions of Skane, and there's a lot you can do with that character, because Skane isn't necessarily one man, he is an idea of just that ultimate soldier that's just grounded enough in reality to juxtapose against the supernatural threats he's going up against, and that is incredibly engaging. So there's a lot of different ways you could look at Skane as a character, a lot of different motivations, a lot of different, character flaws. So I don't think you would need someone new, just a reinvented Skane. And if you can get him voiced by David Hayter, that's always a plus. Now in regards to what I think of Ryden's arc in Metal Gear Rising, it's a very kind of traditional Metal Gear arc. I'm going up against the villain with a certain set of beliefs. They change my beliefs to believe what they do, except I'm going to do it better now. And that's how I would sum it up. But then again, I haven't played Rising as much as I've played all the other games, so if I'm wrong about that, or if you think there's a critical character element I'm missing out on, please let me know. Now we got a question from Flynn to Flinner, who's asking, what are my favorite Resident Evil protagonists, going from favorite to least favorite? Now, I don't want to go ahead and list every single Resident Evil protagonist, because then that would just be a whole video in of itself. But I will give you kind of an outline of who I like the most and who I like the least, and why, and then you can kind of fill in the gaps. Basically, my favorite characters are the ones that have the most relatable motivation for going into these crazy areas and doing these crazy things. And Claire Redfield is at the top of that list, alright? I like any rendition of Claire Redfield. Even in games I don't like Code Veronica, I still like Claire because I can identify with her motivation. Trying to find her brother, trying to take care of someone that's relying on her. Your need to protect your family and your friends, I understand that. I get that. I'm motivated by that. So I like Claire Redfield. I also found out recently that Alison Court, who is the original voice actress for Claire Redfield, was one of the two women that played Lunette the Clown on The Big Comfy Couch. If there's any of you out there that have watched The Big Comfy Couch, please let me know. I need to know that I wasn't alone in watching this, and that there's actual real people out there that also experienced this wonderful fever dream that may or may not have influenced a lot of elements about me. So yeah, Claire Redfield is easily at the top. I actually really like Ethan Winters. A lot of people hate him because I don't know, they think what he says is stupid. The things that he says are no less stupid than a lot of the one-liners that Leon has. So I think Ethan gets a lot of just flack for no reason, even the whole thing of like, oh, how can his forearms protect him from so much? And it's like, you're playing Resident Evil 4 Remake and Leon's taking an axe right here, which would be a kill. Let's not make any mistake there. And he just pops a green herb and he's totally fine to go. So why can't Ethan have that same level of suspension of belief? But again, Ethan's motivations are save my family, protect the people I care about. So that's also, again, very relatable to me. Next would come with Carlos, just because his whole arc about getting into a certain field, working for a certain organization, and then becoming very disillusioned when he realizes the realities of that organization, again, is something I can relate with. I got into, or my goal was to get into, military, policing, security, and as I started to dip my toes into that world and gain actual work experience, I found out a lot of the realities of who I had to be, what I would have to become, and how that would affect myself and then also the people I care about, and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. So Carlos's whole arc of going into Umbrella with motivations and expectations of what that's going to be like, and then finding the reality out about it and then making a quick 180, that's something I can relate to, so I also really like Carlos. Jill Valentine, I mean, again, I've talked about why I like her. She's basically just the Resident Evil Master Chief. That's really cool. Chris Redfield is up there too, especially Chris Redfield in Resident Evil 6 is one of the only characters that's actually working to fix all the shit that's going on. I mean, I like Jake and Sherry's whole arc, but Chris and Piers are like the guys who are fixing this. It's like the same way Jill Valentine is just that girl when it comes to taking down Nemesis and saving the day. Chris Redfield is just the male counterpart to that. So, especially in a campaign where Leon and Helena are just doing stupid shit, having Chris and Piers actually be there and helping people was really cool. So I like them. I really like Sheva. I can't really empathize with her motivations, but she's still just a force for good. I like that. Barry Burden and the whole arc he had in the original Resident Evil was really cool. I played a little bit of Resident Evil Revelations 2 because, Claire Redfield. But, yeah, like, Barry was okay in that. And then there's just a whole bunch of characters that are, like, okay. You have really good villains, like Wesker, like Nemesis, Sadler. Krauser is basically the Metal Gear villain that never was. But then when you get to characters I don't like, there are a couple. There's Grinder and Shitfuck, whatever his name is. In Resident Evil Revelations, every time these guys came on screen, I wanted to drive a pike through my skull because it would be less painful than watching those two on screen. Then there's also Steve from Code Veronica. Like, I don't know what Capcom was smoking. I mean, there's a lot of misogyny in Resident Evil games, but like, there comes a point where it's not just, a witty remark or just, a character with attitude, and it becomes like fucking weird, and Steve is one of those examples where it's just fucking weird. So yeah, that's not going with every single Resident Evil character because I would really have to work my way down the list. Final comment, Moira Burden. I was a teenager growing up in the 2010s, so her fashion and stuff like that, I used to hang out and date girls that dress like that, so yeah, I kind of have a weak spot for Moira Burden because she takes me back to my teenage years. The next question is from Just Derp, and he's asking how to trigger the Halo 2 ass error and my experience with the Halo 2 level editors. Now, I've heard about the Halo 2 ass error. I've never gotten it myself. I think you trigger it when you bring in, like, I think it's called a volume or an asset that just can't work or doesn't belong within the game's files, so you just get that thing. I think there was like a whole story about the game being recalled because of that, but that's just classic Bungie being Bungie. And then in regards to Halo 2's level editors, I haven't really messed around with it that much because I was busy working with Halo 1's level editors. The thing is, Halo 1, the modding scene, and I tried to get into that because again, play Halo 1. But yeah, like I made some progress with Halo 1 modding, but it is a very difficult game to mod. Halo 2 and 3 and onwards, it's a lot easier and approachable. But yeah, I still need to get experience with Halo 2, because after my experiences with Halo 1 modding, I was just kind of like, okay, I need a break from this. Like I would sit there for like 10 hours on my computer, just trying to get an elite to spawn, and like I've basically just destroyed the debug files of Halo 1 with how much I was messing around in there, so yeah, I will get to that, but I'm still not over. Okay, now we got a nice simple question from Garcia, and this is the embodiment of just throwing random shit at me. What is my favorite kind of pizza? That's easy, that's margarita pizza. That's because it's very hard to fuck up. You go to a lot of restaurants and you try to get a specific kind of pizza, like 4 cheese pizza is a good example of something that can be really good, but they can mess up. really easily. But margarita is just, you know, cheese, tomato, basil. Everyone's gonna have it. It's usually priced pretty fairly no matter where you go. So yeah, margarita pizza, no doubt. Alright, now we got a question from Veselikov, who I believe, if I remember right, did some work on this game called Umurangi Generation, and it's a really cool game. You should check it out. But yeah, Veselikov's question is, what is Ryden SK equivalent?
No! That is not Solid Snake!
You know, the thing with Skane is that Skane just kind of happened. I didn't sit there and try to dream it up. It was just a moment of circumstance when someone commented, they fucked up the typing, and it just hit me, you know? Like, it's kind of like when you're trying a new flavor of food and you bite into it for the first time, you're like, holy shit, I didn't know things could taste like this. That's what Skane was for me. So we're gonna have to wait for Ryden, or really anyone else, has an equivalent like that. That was like a universal flash of lightning. Skane. Okay, our last question is from Dead Spoto. If I could become a game main character and live their life, who would I pick? Now, this is pretty hard because a lot of established game characters, I'm ruling out people like RPG protagonists, because if I could just say, oh yeah, I'd live as the Dragonborn and do nothing but live in Whiterun, sell cabbages, and fuck Usalda. You know, that would be kind of a cop-out. So if I'm going with a pre-established character that has a written arc, it's hard because a lot of these game characters have really shitty lives. So, like, fuck, just trying to think of this. Yeah, man, like everything I can think about right now is just really shitty, so I think I am gonna take the cop-out. Since you didn't specify, I'm gonna say that I would be the Dragonborn, I would live in Whiterun, I would sell cabbages, and I would do nothing besides fuck Usalda. So there we go, another Q&A. You guys have finally seen the legendary closet, and yeah, I got other videos to work on, but I wanted to do this one first because I don't want you guys to answer the Q&A polls and then like feel like I never look at them or never answer them. If I miss something, if you have questions you want answered in another Q&A, put them down below. This has been Solid Skane, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.